on the 3rd and 4th of February, one of the biggest events for Irish tennis in many a year will be taking place at the UL Sports Arena. It's the Davis Cup, and Ireland are playing Austria in the first home tie in almost a decade. Delighted to be joined by Simon Carr, who is part of the five-strong team picked by captain Conor Nyland. And Simon, thanks very much for your time and for joining me today. I presume the big emotion, though, must be excitement as this closes in.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, they're one of the bigger tennis events we've had in the country for the last however knows many years. The last home tie we had was 9, 10 years ago, anyways. So definitely something different and something to be looking forward to. I think for all parties involved and everyone who follows Irish tennis, I think is really looking forward to next weekend and getting going.
Yeah, and yeah, as you said, it is a huge event. It sold out very quickly, and when the
Mm.
tickets were first made available, last or towards the end of last year. So I guess there's a little bit of added pressure there as well. But as a team as well, it's a huge opportunity as well to, I suppose, grow the sport here in this country and to show it to a far larger audience.
Yeah, 100%. Having players like Dominic Thiem and Sebastian Offner coming over, and I suppose exposing Irish juniors, Irish tennis enthusiasts to that sort of level, is something that obviously doesn't happen very often. So I think it's extremely important for Irish tennis in general to take advantage of this I suppose one-off at the moment opportunity, and really do a good job on promoting the sport in general around the time, not just on the 2 days, but on the practice week. And I'm assuming Austria will be there from the Monday onwards as well. So to, I suppose, try to get people in for practice days and stuff like that as well, and really make a week out of it, and kind of squeeze as much as possible out of the week as we can, from a promotional point of view is key. And I'm assuming that something that we'll definitely look to do.
Yeah, and the other advantage you use the term advantage there, and in terms of having a home tie as well, and that can't be undersold obviously as well. And just from a piece I was doing last
Mm.
year with the team from 1983, so Sean Sorensen and Matt Doyle, they were talking about how important it was to have those home ties, and even to the point of you kind of have an option in terms of selecting the court that plays to your advantage. Is
Yeah.
that something that is at play this time as you come up against Austria?
Yeah, 100%. It's always I suppose the format of Davis Cup is always tailored for the home team to have a definite advantage, especially with court surface, and I suppose facets like that are really important in determining outcomes of matches. Obviously, their players are extremely experienced and have a lot of experience on all of the surfaces, but just tailoring the surface, I suppose, to our game styles definitely does offer us a little bit of a cushion as well. Yeah, with regard to home crowd, like I said earlier on, I've never played a home tie, so it's something that I'm assuming I can speak on behalf of all the lads that we're all really really looking forward to. Now, having said that, in the last 3 4 years, all of our ties have been away, and we've done really well to come up and get some good wins abroad in some tough environments. So I think it's definitely something that all of us will relish and look to enjoy as much as possible.
Yeah, and the surface down in UL, it's a hard court. So, how does it play, let's say, to your style specifically? Because looking back through your results, you seem to enjoy playing on that surface.
Yeah, I think I haven't. Obviously, I don't think the court's been put down yet, and I haven't seen it. But I would assume it's probably going to be on the faster side, which I think suits all of our boys pretty well. I think in Ireland we've all grown up playing, a good bit on AstroTurf, which is quite fast. And I think we all definitely be proficient enough on the hard courts, and I think with exception to one or two, maybe it's all of our preferred surface. So I think yeah, I'm looking forward to getting down and seeing the speed of the court and how it's playing and stuff like that. And hopefully it suits our game as well as it can do.
Yeah, and in terms of taking lessons from some of those previous Davis Cup ties that you've mentioned on the road, specifically the Peru one this time last year, where it was a playoff for the World Group One, and it was on a clay court. Obviously, as you said, the home team will look to play everything to their advantage. What did you learn, I suppose, from them that you feel you can sort of use to turn the tables on Austria this time?
Yeah, it's a funny, it's a funny dynamic. The whole atmosphere is tailored towards those. Especially in Peru, I think we'd one or two traveling family members and stuff like that that were in the crowd trying to fight our corner. Now it's going to be 1 or 2 thousand on our side, depending on obviously how many people travel over from Austria. But it's something, like I said, none of us are used to. With exception of the Irish Open a couple of years ago, having that home support is I think something we all relish when it comes around, because it is so infrequent. And yeah, just I suppose trying to set up, the atmosphere and I suppose everything surrounding the tie to give us the best chance possible, and to make it as difficult as possible for Austria to get the result they're coming for.
Yeah, as you mentioned, they're it's a strong Austrian team that will be coming over, and
Mm.
obviously Dominic Thiem is a former Grand Slam winner, former world number three. You mentioned Offner there as well. He's currently in he's another top 100 player. In regard to how much of an equalizer the Davis Cup is in comparison to, say, being on the normal singles circuit, how does that work in terms of, I suppose, your mental preparation for that? Because I guess it's a very different environment where you're meeting these players now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the reality of tennis is, especially on a faster court, is it does, level it out a good bit more. It's easier to hold serve, and if you can get to 3-all, 4-all in a set, the tennis is so finely balanced that a double fault here or a misreturn there or something like that, and you can break serve, and then you're all of a sudden you're set up, and the whole dynamic of a match changes. So I think definitely, it's not going to be, it's a difficult environment for them to come over their heavy favorites, which brings its own pressure. And I suppose our job is to try to utilize that pressure as much as possible, and make them as uncomfortable as possible being in our environment and our turf, I suppose. And yeah, it definitely adds a totally different dynamic. Davis Cup's thrown up some crazy results from tons of different ties in the past, not just Irish ties, but other ties in general, where underdogs have definitely come good and upset on paper stronger teams.
Yeah, and it's a very, looking at tennis from the outside, other than, say, the doubles circuit, the single circuit, it looks lonely a little bit from the outside, or any individual sport generally does. But this is the opportunity where you actually have that sort of, where you are part of a team, in a sense,
Yeah.
you get that sort of environment. Obviously, you're part of a five-player team this time. Like, how do you find that dynamic, sort of being able to sort of share the load with people, I guess, who are
Hmm.
not just teammates, but also in many cases friends as well?
Yeah, it's honestly, it's so much fun. The week is, we've all said it, and we always kind of will say it. It's our most enjoyable week of the year. It's the week we have the most fun. It's the week we're surrounded by, and in Limerick could be even more, because there'll be more people around, because it's 2 hours down the road from Dublin. It's the only week we're surrounded by a group of 7, 10 people, that are all geared around getting a result that we're, I suppose, aspiring for, and we're all have that one common team goal, and it's a totally different dynamic to traveling on the tour on your own. And it's an unbelievable week. We all really enjoy it so much, and I suppose this will be a highlight for us, at the end of all of our careers, when the rackets are hung up, that bringing 2,500 or whatever the capacity is down to Limerick, and filling out the stadium and playing in front of a really strong team is something that I think we'll all be looking back on fondly when that time does come,
Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, the importance of growing the game here. Your own route into tennis was at quite a young age, at the age of 9. I know, obviously, with your dad and as an All Ireland winner as well, maybe GA was possibly a big option in terms of where you could have gone. But I think
Mm.
your mother seems to be the one who's played a part and sort of opened that door to tennis.
Yeah, I played every sport when I was younger. Every sport, like you name it, I tried my hand at it. I love sports, love all types of sport. I'm a keen follower of basically every sport. So tried them all when I was younger, and for some reason, tennis was the one I stuck with. I enjoyed the individual aspect. I enjoyed, I had quite a bit of success earlier on, and I enjoyed that, progression through the ranks and getting onto Leinster squads and national squads and stuff like that was always extremely rewarding for me. But I suppose I think it is important actually to play a lot of sports when you're younger for your athletic ability. So it was fortunate enough, that tennis is the one I stuck with in the end. And it's been a great journey so far. And yeah, this will be another highlight in that journey for sure.
Yeah, and where you were growing up as well, in terms of facilities and that, which club did you join up first, and was it kind of easy enough? Because obviously we have as a sporting nation, we have there's soccer clubs available,
Mm.
rugby clubs, GAA clubs. People maybe forget about things like tennis and individual sports like that a little bit.
Yeah, I started at Mullingar Tennis Club when I was 9. We had a great junior setup for the first couple of years I was there. Anyways, there was a great buzz around the place, and a lot of my friends were playing, a lot of competition around and stuff like that. And if I suppose if it was now, um, I don't know how I'd be able to do it because looking back, some of those winter nights playing tennis in Mullingar, I definitely wouldn't be doing it now. Maybe it's getting soft with age, but just really enjoyed it. Such a good buzz around the place, and like I said before, progression through. I got invited onto Leinster squads when I was 12, and then you're traveling up and down to Dublin 2 or 3 nights a week, and then national squads 5 nights a week, and then it sort of snowballs into a huge commitment, and especially from I suppose my folks helping me out with lifts and stuff like that. And tennis in itself is an expensive sport, so you know incredibly grateful for all the support that my parents and family has given me and allowed me to chase this journey that I've been on for the last I suppose 15 years.
Yeah, and how challenging is it then in terms of the route of going pro and going on the international circuits as well then?
Yeah, it's a tricky decision. I left school after the junior cert. I took a kind of transition year, and played a lot of tennis that year, and I got on quite well. I was playing a lot of the junior events, and yeah, we started training, full time basically from that year onwards, 5 6 days a week. Saw a lot of improvements. Started to see improvements in my results, and then throughout the junior ranks, got to I think 40 in juniors, last 16 of the US Open, and then it becomes kind of a toss up whether you go pro or go to college. A lot of college scholarships, available. College coaches, asking, to go to their school and stuff. But I was very, very set in my ways that I wanted to go on the pro tour straight away. So it's funny once you start playing full time and training full time at the age of 15 or 16, it becomes a way of life. It becomes your job, at a very early age. So I suppose it was all I knew from 15, 16 onwards. And once it came to that decision to go pro, it was, full on, and it was definitely what I wanted to do at the time.
Yeah, and I was watching, the Netflix show Breakpoint there recently. So I think they
Mm.
just did the second season. That they were kind of talking about, I suppose, the dream. I think it's sort of to break into the top 100, where I
Mm.
think things get a little bit easier as a player. But trying to get towards that road, and like how do you enter, I suppose, those different circuits, those different tournaments, and how do you kind of pick and choose?
Yeah, like 100's definitely seen as, the number where, if you break through, then you've kind of made it. Now, once you break through, there's staying there as well, which is as hard in itself. But yeah, there's so many levels, and even more so now. I was talking to someone involved in tennis the other day who's been around for a while, that there's so much more depth, I think, nowadays in professional tennis than there ever was before. And I suppose that's a natural progression of the sport. But yeah, there's so many different levels. You've got the futures where you're showing up, and if you lose first round, you're coming out with 100 quid, and you've spent 1,000 to be there, kind of thing. Which is definitely difficult. And you're not afforded the luxury, I suppose, of a coach, fitness trainer on the road, all that sort of stuff, which is extremely expensive because people need to make a living. And it's definitely a grind, but that sort of, I suppose, sharpening your tools at those lower levels is definitely what will make it most rewarding. If you do get to that stage where you're inside the top 100, and you are making substantial amounts of money from the sport. It's definitely, that's definitely character building stuff coming through those lower doors.
Yeah, and I guess the benefit you've had as well with your dad being qualified in S&C as well, you have
Yeah.
that kind of support base and somebody you can trust who can be there and will be obviously
Mm.
willing to be there as a family member as well.
Yeah. Yeah. My dad's great. He's been a massive supporter of my tennis career, and it's always been really nice to come back and lean on someone who's operated at an extremely high level in their own sport. Also, from a fitness trainer perspective, he's always been the constant. I've had various tennis fitness trainers over the years, but he's definitely been the one that's been the constant in my tennis development, tennis wise and fitness wise. So owe a massive amount to him, and yeah, has definitely wouldn't have been able to reach where I've reached without him.
Yeah, I suppose the final point before I let you go, just in terms again the growing the game thing and what you said before about those winter nights, in Mullingar when you're at that early stage of your career, and it goes back to something again from the chat with the boys from 1983,
Yeah.
the need for indoor facilities. Is that something in terms of where Irish tennis needs to go when it comes to producing the next talents and trying to at least spread the game out around the country. Especially, we're in the middle of a couple of storms
Better.
this week as well, which kind of
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
exacerbates it. But is that something that you'd love to see? Because obviously that will probably take government funding as well to help bring something like that forward.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it's no secret that tennis is a sport, really, that if you're to do it properly, in a country of our climate, you need indoor facilities. It's no secret. I think everybody involved in tennis knows that. The issue is this costs money, and a lot of money at that. So it's a very tricky one. You've got, like, to be totally honest with you, I wouldn't play this time of year. I'd never play outdoors from October, November onwards until, I suppose, March, April. It's just not, you get better practices, better quality practices inside, in those sorts of conditions than if you were at all to be outside in winter months in Ireland. So, these kids, like I was growing up, you know, it would make it tougher, but it's also, you got to balance up the quality of the practices that you're doing. So it definitely would be in I suppose Irish tennis interest to have more indoor facilities. However, whichever way you get there, doesn't really matter, as long as we get those, I suppose, facilities and stuff up and running. Is definitely, I suppose, probably a massive, a goal for the, I suppose, Tennis Ireland and the Irish, all the Irish branches that want to grow the game in the country. So I definitely say that's a massive factor.
Yeah, for sure. But in the short term, at least, I think the main target for everyone who's behind you at the moment, it's the 3rd and 4th of February at the UL Sports
Yeah.
Arena, Ireland against Austria in a playoff for World Group 1. So, Simon, wishing you the best of luck and hopefully the result goes Ireland's way.
Here's Raf. Thanks a million for having me.